What if one day you found out that the world you're living in is not real, and the body you left behind in the real world might not even exist anymore? This is exactly the truth that every single character in the Digital Circus will be forced to face in episode 9. And this truth is so dark, so horrifying, that they will only have two choices left: either stay in the Digital Circus forever or choose that other option, which basically means ending everything. But here's what's even more shocking. Kane, the mastermind behind this entire circus, has disappeared, and every single second he stays gone, this entire digital world is slowly cracking apart. So today, we're going to uncover the full truth that CNA buried for decades, break down Glitch's newest hints, explore the possibility of characters actually coming back, and dig into that one final choice, the one that could change everything for everyone. Stay till the very end, because what gets revealed at the finish line is something you never saw coming.
First, we need to go back to episode 8 for a moment, because without understanding what happened there, nothing that comes next will make sense. We all know Kane dragged every single character through their absolute worst nightmares. Someone's dark past, someone's fake friends, someone's self-rejection. Kane systematically broke each one of them down. But before all of that darkness, Kane was simply having fun with them, creating bizarre situations, messing with them, treating them like toys. And right here, something incredibly important happened. The characters stopped reacting. No fear, no anger, no frustration, just a deep, hollow indifference, a complete emotional shutdown. In that exact moment, that silence was what shattered Kane from the inside. Kane suddenly realized that if nobody is reacting, then what is his importance anyway? Slowly, he stopped feeling any enjoyment himself. And when someone, human or AI, starts losing their sense of value, they become desperate. That is exactly what happened to Kane. His stability began breaking down. His understanding of what fun actually means started twisting into something dark and unrecognizable. Tormenting people, putting them through pain, that started feeling like entertainment to him. But even then, when the characters stopped reacting to that too, Kane hit a wall. There was absolutely nothing left that could make him feel meaningful. Nothing. And in that hollow moment, if he hadn't remembered Kinger, he most likely would have become a completely detached, emotionless administrator, cold, distant, gone forever in a different way. In our previous video, we discussed how Kane, right before his disappearance, had actually come to understand all of his mistakes, and this was confirmed by his own voice actor. Kane's return is not just important for the story, it is absolutely necessary for survival. Without Kane, the Digital Circus will keep falling apart on its own. He is the only one capable of maintaining stability inside this system. Maybe the system has temporarily slowed down the self-destruction process, but the longer Kane stays absent, the more damage this place will take, and at some point, that damage will become irreversible. Now, let's talk about episode 9. This episode is going to be 1 hour and 7 minutes long, and it is very likely that Kane's return will happen in the second half, because the first half will be focused on something else entirely, something much bigger. And that something bigger is the truth, the full, unfiltered, terrifying truth about CNA that the characters are finally going to uncover. The description of the final episode clearly states that the characters will face a truth so horrifying that it will completely change how they see the Digital Circus and everything they thought they understood about their situation. After learning this truth, they will only have two options: accept it and stay in the Digital Circus forever, or make the other choice. So, what exactly is CNA? CNA was a company founded in the 1990s in the state of Missouri. Their stated goal was to create a creative AI, which at that time was considered literally impossible. But they gathered the best programmers in the world and decided to attempt the impossible anyway. Kinger, also known as Grant, built the perfect foundation for that AI. Scratch and the rest of the team refined it further, and in the end, they created something so advanced that it would seem impossible even by today's standards. But all of this brilliance, all of this achievement, it was just a polished, convenient facade. The real work was happening in the shadows. Alongside the programmers, CNA had another equally important group, scientists who studied how the human brain works and whether it was possible to transfer human consciousness into a digital space controlled by that same creative AI. After successful testing, they launched the system at full scale, and their first so-called subjects were 18 people. From what we know through Abel's story, which many people, including me, believe is actually Scratch's story, none of these people willingly agreed to this. So, CNA leadership used two methods to fill their digital world: force and deception. Former employees were transferred into the digital reality against their will, their consciousness ripped from their bodies with no consent. And regular, ordinary people were lured in through deception, made to believe they were simply testing something harmless. This becomes completely clear when you look at Ragatha's very first appearance inside the Digital Circus. She was utterly confused, couldn't understand where she was, what was happening, how to take the headset off, why nobody was helping her. That is not the reaction of someone who knew what they were signing up for. A regular headset doesn't raise any suspicion. It really does look like she was simply invited to test a game, and then it was too late. Jax and Gangle most likely entered the exact same way. A CNA employee probably approached them with some completely harmless excuse to try on a headset, and just like that, they were gone. It is also worth noticing that these characters all had very serious problems in their real lives, which strongly suggests that CNA specifically targeted people who were already struggling, because people like that are far easier to lure in with the promise of something new, something better, something different. And then there's Pomni and Zubul, who didn't even get the deception treatment. They found a headset in an abandoned building and put it on out of pure curiosity, completely accidental. No CNA employee, no setup, no plan. Just two people who stumbled into something they were never supposed to find. Episode 9 will likely make it clear to all the characters that Gangle was the last person to enter the Digital Circus through CNA's controlled process, meaning that system no longer exists. The company is gone. Nobody is monitoring anything. Nobody is coming to help. They are completely, utterly alone, and no rescue is coming from the outside world. But even that realization, as heavy as it is not the darkest truth waiting for them, because while the character's consciousness exists inside the digital world, their physical bodies are still somewhere in the real world. Pomni and Zubul's bodies are sitting in those abandoned buildings where the headsets were found, and the situation with the other characters' bodies is even more disturbing. It seems likely that after a successful consciousness transfer, CNA put the human body into some kind of suspended state, kept alive artificially so it could potentially be revived if needed. But after the company shut down, nobody is maintaining those bodies anymore. Nobody is keeping those life support systems running. Nobody is watching over them. And that leads to the single most chilling conclusion of this entire story. Most likely, every single character is already dead in the real world. Their bodies are gone, and that will be one of the darkest truths dropped in the final episode. The characters will have to face that exact choice: eternal life inside the Digital Circus or return to the real world. Transferring consciousness back is actually possible, and you'll understand exactly why in just a moment. But the devastating problem is there is nothing to return to. The moment they leave the Digital Circus, their lives would end immediately, because the body waiting for them on the other side no longer exists. So now the question becomes, how will the characters even learn all of this? Who or what is going to hand them this devastating information? And is there actually any real way out of the Digital Circus at all? That answer involves something from the very beginning of episode 8 that most people overlooked, and it changes everything. We'll break all of that down in the next section, because what comes next is the most emotional, most heartbreaking, and most suspenseful part of this entire story.